Hello everybody and welcome to the season finale of Jan's opening clinic 25. This will be a slightly longer episode because I'm using it as an excuse to socially distance from my family and lock up in the basement. I'm guessing it's gonna be around 90 minutes, but at the time of watching, you guys can probably tell by looking at how long it is. Having said all these important things, this is the show where I use my tremendous opening expertise and my tremendous access to chess engines to answer Chess24 premium user questions. And without further ado, let me introduce question 1 to you. Germaniculus. Ooh, scary name. He's saying, "Hey Jan, after following all your great series, my black repertoire is nearly finished." It's never finished. It's always work in progress, Germaniculus. And all the non-main moves, one B3 bothers me the most. Maybe it is finished if B3 is a problem. I used to play one E5 and got reasonable positions. But as a 1d4 player myself, I dislike b3, e5, bishop b2, knight c6, c4, giving white way too much the game he seeks. If he seeks to be worse with white after 3 moves. No. Note to self. Switch off. What's called? Grumpy mode. Focus. Your repertoire after c4, knight f3, g3 seems to usually transpose if I just play knight f6, d5, e6 and bishop e7, but it lets black off the hook in general and leaves room for some very easy to play setups with f4 as in a reverse queen's union. Should we punish white for its early sins with the reverse London as in Fiducie of Schenkland 2019 Vacancy, or should we accept 1b3 as merely meek? Try to transpose and have a fix for those f4 systems. Thanks. I'm a premium member at the season premiere. Not sure if I am in the finale when the plot thickens and my question is answered. Yup, I see the little crown. So, your question is 1b3. What to do? And to address the first point, I kind of understand that if you're a 1d4 player, you're not too thrilled about these positions. They are pretty good though, so I'm not sure. Like c4 is out of fashion for a reason, and if you get something like this, well, it's of course some sort of Sicilian with colors reversed, where us d4 boys might not feel totally at home. White also committed to b3, bishop b2, which is really not that scary. I don't know, I guess you should play a3, you can go f6, cripple that bishop, and black's position already looks very, very okay to me. So I don't think that's a big reason. Having said all that, I do understand your reasoning, and I kind of like what you suggested. This reverse London, this d5, bishop f5, I think is a very easy to play way to play against b3. You just go e6, knight f6, h6, bishop e7, castle. If a white knight appears on e5, you exchange it with knight bd7 or knight ft7. There's not very much that can go wrong. For example, if white wants to, keep it independent, give it a birdie touch. Now, I think we're quite happy to have our bishop out on f5. Here we go. For stuff like this, could throw in h6 whenever we want, but I don't think there's any particular need. For example, if white goes knight h4 here, well, we have many good moves. But even such a position is pleasant for black. Knight comes to c6, d4, knight d5, bishop f6. It's not great for white. So castles, let's say h6, just so we don't have to think about it anymore. Knight e5, knight bd7, and I can't see a single problem for black. I think it's just a fairly pleasant position. Therefore, yeah, I guess the best white has here is to transpose to some sort of double fianchetto. Go g3, and we do the same. I don't know. You could play c5 here. I think engines kind of like c5, knight c6, which certainly makes a ton of sense too. But also to, just go for the everyday London setup. I don't see anything particularly wrong with this kind of stuff. Don't quote me on the move order. But I, see no particular reason to worry about any of this. This looks like a fairly equal position as well. So, long story short, I like d5, bishop f5. As you said, there's never too much wrong with going d5, e6, knight f6, bishop e7 castles. But also, not really necessary to allow them a kind of okay version of this bird, whatever you want to call it. Well, with a bishop out on f5, I really don't think e3, f4 plans are particularly scary. So I hope that answered your question. I think e5 is perfectly good. I would probably play e5. And the main lines are e3, knight f6, and bishop b5 here. Not so much this 3c4, but after bishop b5, both e4 and bishop d6. I don't think there are any problems for black. So that's what I would do, but I do believe that d5, bishop b2, bishop f5 is a fairly simple way to play as well. Thanks for the question, Germaniculus. What else do we have? We have opening click regular, MrNormalName. He's saying, what should white play after d4, knight f6, c4, e6, g3, c5, d5, ed, cd, d6, knight c3, g6, bishop g2, bishop g7, knight f3, castles, a6, a4, knight bd7, bishop f4, queen e7. Let's put it on the board. This is some Benoni thingy. d4, knight f6, c4, e6, g3, c5. I don't know, is this Avruch book territory? Many people started adopting this Avruch repertoire. I guess he wants to play these systems against the Benoni. So a4, knight bd7, bishop f4, not the only move. Sure, well, knight d2 is a popular move here, no? And I'm sure you could make a case for e4 or whatnot as well. But anyway, bishop f4, queen to e7. Can't claim a ton of expertise. I had a brief look, and the move that appealed to me at first sight. Sorry, I probably should have had a board on screen while ranting. So I was saying that instead of bishop f4, knight d2 is a move, and maybe you can make a case for e4, not sure. But the question was what to do after bishop f4, queen e7. And I've had a brief look, can't really claim to be a giant expert here. The move I liked best was rook b1. Not the most popular move. I think h3 is maybe the most popular, which is very logical as well. Stopping knight g4, then intending to go, rook e1, e4, e5. And that looked very doable as well, like rook b8, rook e1, b5, e4. e5 is a threat, so seemed like a pretty decent option to me too. But I kind of liked rook b1, going for b4. Maybe not the most standard plan, but I liked it. After knight g4, which looks extremely logical once again, stopping b4, targeting this. Now the trick, or the point was a5, which is usually met by b5. And here, what caught my eyes was that after ab knight b6, we can play pawn to b4, leaving this knight en prise on the c3 square, which I liked. Bishop c3, bc, white is winning, or much, much better, sort of a double attack. And cb4, rook b4 also looked very pleasant. So I like this idea, and I think there's a fair chance of getting this. Probably instead of b5, black should play knight g e5, but then we go knight a4 and start preparing b4 again. Once again, with a pleasant position. So I like this. Instead of knight g4, maybe they should play some move like rook to e8, but now queen c1, another nice little move, keeping an eye on this guy, preparing b4. And I don't think black will have a very easy time equalizing it. Knight g4, b4, takes, knight c5, a5. This type of position looked a bit better for white to me. So I would try this rook b1 move, because it has a cute trap and also seemed decent objectively. h3 also seemed very, very decent objectively, just stopping knight g4. But rook b1 gets my vote, MrNormalName. Thank you for your question. Is there more? There's Saint Olaf. Would you recommend amateurs below 2100 still play the 2a6 over the board against white's attempts at the closed Sicilian 2 knight c3? I saw that Sopiko Guramishvili admit she enjoys playing this, but also presented a repertoire against it. Which one is it, Sopiko? On the other hand, you can find repertoires that include 2a6 against the closed Sicilian, still that even address her analysis. Wow. Sufficed? Is it sufficed or suffised? Sufficed to say, I'm a bit confused. Your opinion on this would be most appreciated. Thanks. I'm not quite sure what the question is. You confused me too, Saint Olaf. But let's bring up a board and confuse ourselves together. So e4, c5, knight c3. The question is usually, does white want to play close Sicilian, or do they want to move order us if we are a knight off player? Because if we're a knight off player, we can't play knight c6 so easily, since after knight f3, intending d4, or knight e2, intending d4, it's not so easy to get back to our knight of repertoire, the knight off being, let's say d6, knight f3, a6, this position. So if we're aiming for the knight off, then we have a choice between 2a6 and 2d6, which I think I talked about maybe last episode. There was a similar question. To d6, I guess the quote-unquote drawback is that f4, these, whatever it's called, Grand Prix attack style systems are a little more potent than after 2 knight c6, even though experts don't seem particularly scared of these days with the black pieces. And they can also try some stuff like knight e2, knight f6, g3, aiming to discourage black from playing a6, when I think black should play g6, but not everybody's cup of tea. So, as a knight of player, you have that choice between d6, which I think is doable, and the move a6, once again, getting ready for transpositions back to the knight off. Now, I have to admit, I'm not familiar with Sopiko's analysis and the repertoires that you mentioned quoting that analysis, so I'm not quite sure which line it is that bothered you here. Why typically, if they want to play a proper close Sicilian, plays g3 or pawn to f4, I would guess. g4. Special shout out to Paco Vallejo. Maybe in the distant third place. And yeah, as far as I know, which really is not very far, I've never played this position with either color or analyzed it in any detail. After f4, b5, looks like black is doing okay. No, knight f3, bishop b7, keeping options open. If white goes d4, this should be a decent version of whatever Sicilian this is. Knight c6, queen f2, e6, I don't know. Looks playable. And if they play d3, which they usually do, I guess black could go for some e6, followed by d5. A complicated position, but it looked doable for black to me. If I prefer these types of positions to the one after 2d6, I'm not sure. I guess I would rather go 2d6, but it's close. They both look pretty okay. Now, usually they start with g3. I guess black's point is still to play b5 here. Bishop g2, bishop b7. And now there's a choice. I was a bit concerned about some stuff like this, which I saw. d5, f5. Looked a little scary for black. f5 not played so often. They usually go e5 or whatnot, which does not look as scary. But this f5 move looked somewhat unpleasant. So I wasn't quite sure about this line. Usually they play something slower, like knight g2, and here once again we can transpose to some open Sicilians, which, you know, I guess are okay for black, but you have to be able to navigate quite some territory. Therefore, I think if I had to choose, I would go as a knight of player with 2d6 over 2a6. But 2a6 remains very much alive and kicking and gives, you know, the game a more distinct flavor. But these lines somewhat scared me. Maybe instead of e6, d5, black should look into other plans here. Or just analyze this more deeply. I'm not claiming it's winning or anything, but this was the line that gave me some doubts about this 2a6 stuff. Therefore, if you are a knight of player, I think I would recommend to go to d6, but I don't think 2a6 is a bad move. If you're not a knight of player, then just play 2 knight c6 and don't worry about any of this a6 d6 business. Hope that helps you out a bit, Mr. Saint Olaf. Amateurs below 2100 can certainly still play the 2a6 over the board. Even if they get past 2100, they can keep playing it. There's no cutoff. Not a premium member. So we'll move on to Samurai 29. And he says, "Hi Jan, I am a 1d4 player who also likes to go with 1 knight f3 and 1 c4 on occasion. That's what us d4 people do." I'm out of coffee? It's shocking. Against the Slav proper, I've been recently playing the slow Slav. 3 knight f3 and 4 e3 as the exchange Slav with 4 bishop f4 wasn't really cutting it as a main weapon. Sad to hear, even if I did like it and have some success with it against weaker players. Didn't like it as a main weapon against weaker players, or you liked it against weaker players? Anyway, my question is on the topic of the line with 4 bishop f5. After knight c3, e6, knight h4, bishop g6. I know that bishop e4 is also an option, but I find the former to be a bit more annoying because of its solidity. I feel the other way around. I think bishop e4 is more challenging. Which lines do you suggest exploring from here? I know Avro recommended bishop e2, but snatching the bishop immediately is also quite popular. I was looking into knight g6, followed by bishop d2, knight b7 and g3. Felt that white has some reasonable chances for an edge, particularly at my level, 2200 FIDE. Also, are there model players who you would suggest following in these lines of the Slav for white? I don't know. I kind of agree with everything you said. So d4, d5, c4, c6, whatever move order, knight f3, knight f6, e3, bishop f5, knight c3, e6, knight h4. This is the only real try at an advantage, and black faces a choice here after knight h4 between bishop e4, which we saw recently, for example, in Caruana versus Giri in the candidates, Giri versus Caruana in the candidates, and bishop g6, the older, or well, both moves are old, the more solid move. I don't know, I've played this position once or twice. I think I went with this once, which I liked back then. I think modern engines are sort of yelling c5, and white is not that much better. But I liked even the most primitive way to play knight g6 and bishop d3. I think there's not that much difference fundamentally between the line you mentioned that Avro gives, this bishop e2, intending to go castles, g3 and takes later, and the immediate knight takes g6, hg, and g3, or bishop d2 followed by g3. They're both fairly similar, and I believe that white has decent chances, and you know, a small advantage in either, like not a winning advantage, but the two bishops in these 0-20, 0-30, where Visciana would say with black, okay, I will hold this because I'm Viscianant and I am an excellent player, but you still wouldn't feel like this is what kills my white repertoire in terms of trying to get a chance for an advantage. I think that's why bishop e4, which makes it somewhat more move by move, is a bigger challenge. If you want a fresh idea that I think is not played so often, I kind of like the move queen b3, which they don't do much, as mentioned, but I think it gives white chances for an edge as well. After queen b6, now we just take and go g3 in general. No reason to be too afraid of these endgames. So they usually play queen c7, and now we can maybe try to do something about this queen being a little funny on c7, like takes g3, and then go for some quick bishop d2, maybe some cd5. Not saying it's winning, but I thought these positions were kind of interesting as well, like knight bd7, bishop g2, bishop e7, and here's cd5. I kind of liked. Or castles followed by cd5, maybe that's more precise. Castles, cd5 leads to similar stuff. The point is, if they go ed, then I think f3 was interesting. Hang on, is this the position? Castles, f3, hinting at e4, c5. The pawn on d5 is still weak. So these positions can get pretty dangerous for black pretty soon, actually. Therefore, I guess cd is more solid, but then you go bishop d2, rook fc1, put the bishop on e1 if needed, and play for a tiny two-bishop plus, like these Catalan players like to do. So I kind of enjoy the move queen b3 in this position as well, which is not the main move. Other than that, I agree with what you said, knight g6, followed by bishop d2 and g3, or knight g6. Not even sure we need bishop d2 with the immediate g3. Gives decent chances for a small advantage, as does this bishop e2, castles, g3, and take later. So overall, I'm with you. It's a playable line, and I would be more concerned, as mentioned, about bishop e4, f3, bishop g6, when I think black has been doing okay after queen b3, queen c7. So you might want to look into what Anish did. What was it? Take some bishop d2, or maybe he started with bishop d2. I guess he started with bishop d2. Yeah, this I think is a more topical battleground right now. Thanks for your question, Mr. Samurai 29. Oof, that's a tough name. Mimus-Aptenodytes? 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 Sorry, I might have bungled that. He's saying, "Hi Jan, thank you for your many great contributions to the online chess community." Thank you, thank you. I was wondering if you could provide an overview of what is considered the most topical critical try for an advantage for white right now in the following Grunfeld symmetrical English variation: c4, c5, knight f3, knight c6, knight c3, g6, e3, knight f6, d4, cd, ed, d5. Many thanks. Let's do it, or I can try at the very least. Do or do not. There is no try. C4, c5, knight f3, knight c6, knight c3, g6. I never liked this line that much for black. I've faced it a couple times with white. I might have played once or twice with black as well, but I was never that happy. So d5, I think the critical line, still the main line. cd, knight d5, queen b3. Now, the problem is black has a choice here between three systems, which are all sort of respectable. So we'll have to go through all of them. Two of those start with knight takes c3, one starts with e6. So maybe we'll start with knight takes c3. And here white's point is this little Zwischenzug, bishop c4, hitting f7. Which means black cannot really keep his extra piece, and he has to choose between knight to d5 back and pawn to e6 directly, which I think Dubov championed. Let's start with knight d5 back. That's the old main line. We take, black goes e6, we take on c6, bc short castles. And it seems that practice and engines have shown that white is a little better, but I'm not sure that how much it is, because it looks good for black at first sight with the two bishops and the compact structure. The problem for black is often that this bishop really struggles to find a role unless he gets in c5, which is not so easy. So queen d5, I used to think bishop e3, rook fc1 was a way to play here. But I think Leela also is a fan of queen to e3, and I've seen some recent games, which makes sense as well, keeping queens on the board after f6 to go rook e1, whatever, king f7, I guess is logical. And pawn to b3. And it seemed like it was not so simple for black to equalize here either. At least that was my impression. Sorry, misclick, that's a different line. So queen b3, knight c3, bishop c4, knight d5, takes, e6, takes. Castles, there are some alternatives here, but I used to be team bishop e3 and say white is somewhat better here. But this queen e3, more brute force approach, has its appeals too. Then instead of knight to d5, there is the move pawn to e6. It looks like white is better after b takes c, because bishop g7, there's some bishop a3, but things aren't so simple after this bishop d7 move. I think that's what Dubov did, intending to play knight a5, so the bishop has to go. It seemed like the best square was e2 here, bishop e2, knight a5, and for some reason queen b1 was more challenging than queen c2. You know, not putting the queen on the c file, but letting it roam over here. Rook c8 castles. This pawn could not really get taken here. White is just too active. Bishop b2, d5. So now they play bishop g7 and bishop a3. I think this is a game, I forgot who against who, Ding against Wesley So maybe. And looked like white is better here. Bishop f8, bishop b4. Bishop takes, queen takes. Did not seem like black is equalizing easily here at all. So I have a feeling this bishop e2, queen b1 is asking quite some questions, and that this line, knight c3, bishop c4, e6 is under some pressure. That brings us to the last line. After queen b3, black can also play the immediate pawn to e6, which is a structure I still struggle to understand a bit. The critical line is bishop b5, and somewhat surprisingly, just giving this bishop voluntarily for the knight on c6. So bishop g7, castles, bishop takes c6, b takes c. Practice has shown that rook e1 is the best move here, you know, just sidestepping anything. And now the specialists in the Nepomniachtchis of the world, I think, have been playing this move, queen c7 here. h4 is, not surprisingly, the Leela suggestion. As usual, the guy just wants to push his h-pawn up the board. And it looked interesting. These positions I struggle understanding a little bit, because it looks, at first sight, for an old classical guy like me, it looks like black is better. Compact pawn structure, two bishops and so on. But the more you look at them, the more you understand. Leela is smart, and it's actually not the case. The bishops are a little passive. White has some play, b3, bishop a3 is looming. It's not so easy to stop, and it's not clear how to get this guy any significant role as usual. So this is an interesting position. Instead of rook b8, there are other moves like knight takes c3, but it looked playable for white to me as well. So this is kind of the current battleground, I would say. Not sure if h4 is the move. You could also, you know, be more old school, play h3. That's probably what I would do. Rook b8, queen d1, and say, haha, your bishop is bad, and if you go c5, I will be a teeny tiny bit better in a position like this. I think that's a fair summary of what's going on in these lines. The usual disclaimer, didn't spend that much time, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I think it's still playable line for black, but white can certainly push for an advantage in these queen b3 mainlines still. Therefore, it has not been that popular at the highest of levels recently compared to, you know, knight f6, for example, or even e5, I think is more popular. So, there you go. Hope that helped. Mimus. I'm just going to call you Mimus. Then we have Sloyo. He's saying, "Hi Jan, I'm a French player. What do you recommend against e4, e6, d4, d5, 3, bishop d3? Thanks." That's a question we get once every couple seasons. Yeah. It's a strange move to worry about because it's so illogical, no? But I do understand. It has its points, and I think maybe even Pepe recommended it in some video series. The main moves, of course, knight c3, knight d2, e5, ed5, and bishop d3. Yeah, take. Go knight f6. Take that tempo. White goes bishop f3, c5. Not forced, but logically enough. Knight e2. And now it's sort of a question what you want. If you want a game with decent long-term prospects, or if you want a theory battle trying to force, I don't know, I guess equality, trying to set the board on fire. If you want a game, I have a feeling it makes some sense to delay knight c6, start with bishop e7 here. I don't know, what do they do? Castles, castles. Knight c3, knight c6, bishop e3, cd, knight d4, knight e5, this type of position. Where, yeah, I have a hard time believing black can be worse, but I guess white is not worse either. Like queen e2 takes, bishop d7, something like this. And then what I would do, because I'm a spacebar monkey, is force the issue, and I think this is also the quote-unquote solution I've given in past opening series, opening cleans. We walk into that trap. Because what white players want when they play this line is to get this position after knight c6, bishop e3, and they're hoping for knight d5 here, so that they can blitz out bishop takes d5. And let's be nice and oblige. Not force, you can still play cd, knight d4, and knight e5, or queen c7, or whatnot, but why not poke the bear a little bit here? Go knight d5, logical enough move. They take queen d5. They will blitz out knight bc3. But we will also blitz. We will blitz out queen takes g2, rook g1, queen takes h2. Now, they will probably still blitz bishop f4, because it's the only good move. Knight b5 makes no sense, because the queen still covers these squares. So they have to go bishop f4 first, and we go queen h3. They will blitz knight b5. Ugh, they're very fast players. And we will play f6, saying, I worry about nothing. Mi rook as su rook. And now the fun begins. We're rook down, but this knight is sort of offside. We took a bunch of pawns. The pieces will come out quickly. And most importantly, it works. Knight d4, bishop b4 check is one fun line. c3 only move. We take. And now white has to make some decisions, like bishop d2, queen d4. Still a rook down. That's the bad news. But the good news is we took a lot of pawns. This king is pretty weak, and we don't even need to hurry. Like rook c1. I think g6 is what my computer said. The position is equal. So this is sort of the light the board on fire approach. King of 1, knight takes d4 is not better. c4 check coming. If that's something you might be interested in. I hope that helped, Mr. So forgetful. Mr. Sloyo. Smashinglad. He's saying, hi Jan, the Queen D8 Scandinavian. Reliable way of reaching Caro can pawn structures while avoid the advanced variation or asking for it. It is asking for it. Specifically, how do you assess this line? E4, D5, and long line we'll put on the board. If a strong player sees this in my repertoire, does he just go for it and kill me slowly every time? Or if I have a deep look, can I expect half decent results here? Do I castle here and stay low on the king side, or expand a bit over there with h5 and g6 and keep my king in the middle? Alright, let's put it on the board first, so we know what we're talking about. e4, d5, ed, queen d5. Even Magnus said the other day that the French is a much better opening than the Scandinavian. And Magnus has played a bunch of Scandinavian. So knight c3, queen d8. I'm not sure if knight c3 is forced, by the way, but that's a topic for a different day. Knight c3, queen d8, d4, knight f6, knight f3. And I thought the specialists, they go g6 here, not trying to keep pieces on the board and suffer then in such positions. While your move bishop g4, well, in a way it's a very pure approach, you know, Capablanca style. We exchange one bishop, then we put our pawns on light squares, then we hope for the best. But yeah, if a strong player sees this as your main line, they will prepare for this. Like, if I see you play this every game, I might play one e4. You'll play c5, and I'll be very sad. But this is a target. h3, bishop f3, queen f3, c6, bishop e3, e6, and here it starts. I'm not sure if long castles is forced, or well, I'm pretty sure it's not forced. And you are kind of behind in development. Like, the structure is sound, but even some slow move like a3, bishop e7, bishop d3. I would take white, I would guess, knight b7 and castle either direction. I'm not sure how bad this is, and black, especially if the white player is not that strong, certainly can get counter chances, but even this I would be somewhat concerned about. But let's get to your position, which is bishop e3, e6, long castles directly. Looks like the most critical move for sure. And bishop to b4. Here you had knight e4. Once again, my computer gives rook d3 as an option. You know, just going caveman style. Knight d5, rook b3. He's saying white is better here. So that's something to keep in mind. And knight e4 takes, queen d5 takes. This position, I don't know. My feeling would be that if white plays slowly, black is fine here, like in this Carlsbad structure. So if you get the pieces out, you ask about g6, h5. I don't know about that. I would just castle, try to put something on the c file, and you know, then either go for some minority attack or shuffle the horse around a little bit. So against slow plans, I think black should be okay. Like, the computer will still prefer white after some move like g4 or bishop e2. But to my mind, with white here, I would try to clarify the issue and play c4 quickly to change the structure, get out of this Carlsbad structure. And I wouldn't expect to win a game every time, obviously, because I'll probably blunder opponent like 3 moves. But I would think this is not equal either, that white has decent chances here. After takes, bishop takes, knight d7, bishop b3. You know, we have bishops, and black will have to work a little bit. Maybe if you can control that square, you're fine, but knight b6, d5 now becomes a question of tempi. And it does look to me like white should force the issue here and go for the c4 move when it's not easy equality. Black ignores this and doesn't go dc4, knight c6. And white has some choices if he wants to go c5 or just cd, even these positions. I don't know. I'd take white. Ed king b1. I like the bishops here. So long story short, if you want to spend a lot of time, why not do it on a different opening? Yeah. Sorry, I think the Scandinavian is a decent surprise weapon, and if you can jump around between these lines, maybe, I don't know. Play that line one game, and then next game you play queen d6, so you play queen d8, knight f6, g6, that kind of stuff. As usual with surprise weapons, you have to stay mobile and jump a little bit. If, yeah, players that prepare for games seriously see that you play this every game, I would not like your chances. Having said that, probably Magnus will play like 15 games with it now, just out of spite. But no, I do not like this line all that much. And if you go here, then yeah, to me it would be more like play g6 and keep pieces on the board. But frankly, I don't like it either. All right, so the Scandinavian. Let's get to Mr.Bad, International Master. He's saying, hi Jan, thanks for the great show. Thank you, thank you. What is your view on the Cobra variation? e4, c5, knight f3, e6, d4, cd, knight d4, knight f6, knight c3, knight c6, knight db5, bishop c5. I realize that some strong GM, e.g. JF, added this to their repertoire. There seems to be also a trend toward knight takes c6. Do you think this is more critical than knight db5? And the reason why Magnus used the classical move order to reach the Sveshnikov? Thanks. Let's get our board back and talk about it. e4, c5, knight f3, e6. Now obviously one big advantage e6 has is that it avoids knight c6, bishop b5, which is a serious factor to keep in mind when thinking about all these systems. And this move order, if black does not play bishop c5, but plays d6 here, after which you transpose to the Sveshnikov with bishop f4, e5, bishop g5, also has a big plus from black's point of view, in that you avoid, arguably, the most critical system nowadays, the one that Karana played in the match with knight to d5. Does not work in the other move order. So there is a lot to be said about this move order. The drawback, as you mentioned, is the move knight takes c6, which bc e5. I don't think it's bad. There have been quite some articles and correspondence games and so on recently about this, trying basically to force draws here in long lines after knight e4, queen c7, and probably successfully, but it's a big chunk of very unnatural positions you have to navigate, and I would guess quite some work as well. This f4, queen b6, pawn to c4. There were these recent games, like what was it, Kayakin, Shirov. Someone followed them where Kayakin mixed up the move orders. So I don't know, I think this is, yeah, a popular topic in correspondence. I'm not sure how suited it is to over-the-board play. But your question was mainly what I think about knight db5, bishop c5. No strong opinions. I do have engines, and I think we had this question before. I wasn't a giant fan. It's one of these that is not too bad, so you can... It's a bit like the queen d8 Scandinavian. You can throw it in there as a surprise weapon. If it holds up against scrutiny, I'm not sure. I think the main move is bishop f4, but at least in my very brief check, I like knight d6 check somewhat better. Because bishop f4, castle. So does this go? Bishop c7, queen e7, bishop d6. Doesn't feel like it's that much. Bishop d6, queen d6. And now black has a choice. Queen d8 you can play. Castle a6, this type of stuff. You know, looks slightly better for white as well. Or knight e8. And this type of stuff, which once again does look slightly better for white, but is probably tenable if you're an expert here. So that's one line, and the other one, yeah, is this knight d6 check, which is not as popular. King e7, bishop f4. I've talked about this in some previous clip, but I can't recall at all what I recommended there. So this might be the opposite, or it might be what I gave back then. One never knows. The line here is h5, e5, only move. If not, white goes e5, e5, bishop g4. Oh, sorry, let's not hang the knight. e5, knight f5 check, king f8, bishop g5. And I don't know if this is okay or not. Looks like d6 is best, bishop b4, queen f3. Seemed like trouble. Knight d4 takes a3. I don't think black can play like this. So the line was d6, bishop c4. Here, there are some options, but nothing that I liked that much for black. For example, h6 takes, knight e3. Tending knight cd5, followed by c3. And I thought white was better, frankly. Even though, yeah, one can certainly keep analyzing. Maybe instead of h6, one of the other options you can get to work on. Bishop e6 or bishop takes f5. But looked to me like white was better. So the usual disclaimers, not an expert, blah, blah, blah. But not a system I would like that much. The good news is that it seems like black is doing pretty alright here, no? So yeah, the usual. To me, it's still more surprise weapon than mainstream. Also, you have to be ready for knight takes c6. Therefore, seems like quite some work for not that much reward, maybe. That's how I sees it. Very awkward. Curb your enthusiasm reference. I do know that's how I see it, not sees it. Angry white man saying, hello, I would like to ask for your insights in the Frankenstein Dracula variation for white. And maybe e4, e5, knight c3, knight f6, bishop c4, knight c6, d3, bishop c5, f4, g6, knight f3, a6. Thank you. No wonder you're an angry white man if you're thinking about these monsters all the time. Frankenstein, Dracula. I never saw the upside of allowing it with white unless you think unless it's like a fun hobby and you want to lure players into it. So e4, e5, and you don't want to play knight f3, but you want to go bishop c4, knight c3. The only legit reason for that is usually if your opponent plays the Petrov, which is a very mean opening. So you go bishop c4, or you start with knight c3. I don't know. Knight to f6 and knight c3. The thing is, I really don't see any plus compared to the move d3 here for starting with knight c3, and you do allow this knight takes e4, which I think is what they call the Frankenstein Dracula, no? Queen h5, knight d6. Now it depends on your appetite for blood. If you want to, play it boring, which is possible, bishop e2, and argue white is a teeny tiny bit better here. Or if you want to go for this bishop b3, when I guess that the most prudent course of action for black is to play bishop e7 or g6, but probably bishop e7, which I think equalizes without too much drama. Or if you want to go for this, which I understand is a very fun sequence and intriguing position. Objectively not clear. Computers like it for white, but it's not hopeless, these types of positions. One can spend a lot of time analyzing them. Or one could argue, life's too short, my move order does not have a whole lot of upside. So why am I doing this to myself? Here, I don't know, why there's some options. You can go knight takes b6 or start with knight e2, bishop b7, queen d3. Apologies. That was an expert plug sneeze right there. chessobert.com/Jan. Go learn e4, e5. So I do not have to sit here all day and answer all these questions about the queen d8 Scandinavians, the shady bishop c5 Sicilians, all that. e4, e5. Play by lines. chessobert.com/Jan. People say it's great. Many people say it's a great course. Many people. So what was I talking about? Bishop a8, c3. This type of positions, they're very weird. I don't know. Computers will... Sorry, here we are. Bishop a8, c3. Computers will like white, but I'm not sure how comfortable I would be. Like, it does require maybe some more study. The good news is if you don't get checkmated here, and you probably don't, then you will be. And exchange up for not too much, but what the upside is to allow all this compared to c3, d3, I'm not sure. You could maybe make a case that after d3 there is c6 and all that stuff. Well, after knight c3, c6, we can go d4, knight f3. That still seems like, yeah, I don't know, a high price to pay for me. Personally, I would probably just go knight c3, knight c6 and transpose to the line. You also mentioned d3. Now black has a choice, knight a5, bishop b4, or bishop c5. Bishop c5 has the worst reputation of the three, but I believe that's actually what I recommended in my chessable course, because I'm such a contrarian. The reasoning used to be here that after f4, d6, knight f3, white can go f5 after a6, and white is better, which I'm not sure about either. But my point was that I think ef4 is just fine. Bishop f4, castles, followed by bishop e6. And, you know, for details, check out my great course. But your question was, if instead of ef4, black plays a6, I think that's okay for black too. Like, computers don't hate it. I'm always uncomfortable with granting all that space. I understand. It was possible to move before, but then black has some more drastic measures. So I would not be too thrilled about these positions after f5, even though, yeah, compies argue that knight a5 here is still sort of playable. But I don't know, even these positions I would not enjoy with black, or wouldn't know what to do. So I think I would go for stuff like this from the white side. Try these positions after f5. If that's not your cup of tea, there are certainly other options like knight d5. Looks like a playable move, but then I have a feeling black should equalize with ef4. So I don't know. I'm not a giant fan of the territory, but with white it's okay to take some liberties. And if you specialize there, nothing in particular to say against, especially because I actually didn't like these positions after knight a5 or bishop b4 that much for black. So I don't think it's a hopeless endeavor. And yeah, in this stuff you will have to have a plan against bishop e7, which I think has a pretty good reputation. There were some games, but nothing that impressed overly from white's point of view. Well, after knight c6, usually the better prepared player in all this chaos will have a pretty decent shot. So, hope that helps a little bit, Mr. Angry White Man. What else do we have? We have Mr. Chessobert. He's saying, hello, Jan. e4, c5, knight f3, d6, d4, cd, knight d4, knight f6, knight c3, g6, bishop e3, bishop g7, f3 castles, queen d2, knight c6, aka the dragon. I would like to ask you what you would recommend as a reply to knight g4 in the during. Thanks a lot, Robert. I'm a bit of a dragon connoisseur, like not on Bilbo Baggins level, but I did put in my time looking at the dragon. So let's bring up the board and go there. e4, c5, knight f3, d6, d4, takes, knight c3, g6, bishop e3, bishop g7, f3, castles, queen d2, knight c6, and pawn to g4. I think the only good move is bishop to e6 here, which looks funny. Of course, you allow your pawn structure to be crippled, but the reasoning is that then at least this rook gets a clear view towards f3, and the reasoning is also other stuff doesn't really work. Like the other natural way to play is takes and then bishop e6, but here white has not committed to long castles yet, and as far as I know, these positions, if white leaves a king here for a moment and keeps pushing with h4, are just bad for like queen a5, h5, rook fc8, and the king still has no particular reason to go here. I think you start with a3, rook ab8, and rook h2. Don't ask me why, but this is a strong move. There are other strong options here as well. So these positions, they just don't really work well for black. Therefore, I don't think we have a choice but to go bishop to e6. When the point is, if white castles now, then these lines work a little better. Now we're in time to get counterplay here. White probably has to spend a move on a3. We go rook ab8, hint at b5. King b1, rook fc8, h4, b5. That kind of stuff I think is okay. Knight d5, takes, bishop d5. You know, these endgames don't look too bad. So that's one point of starting with bishop e6. We're waiting for long castles to go knight takes d4. And if they ignore the bishop and go h4, now d5 becomes very powerful. So that's another point and reason for starting with bishop e6. Therefore, the critical move is knight takes e6, f takes e, and long castles. There are other options, but this is the most critical one. Knight g5, targeting f3, and eyeing the c4 square, bishop e2, and back in my days, but I think it's still the main move. This move queen to c8, keeping an eye on e6, while also targeting that c4 square over there. I don't know, in the old days this was kind of acceptable. It's a dangerous position for black. But there were all these lines where it looks like you get checkmated, but then somehow you don't. One fun line was h4, knight fd7, h5, knight takes f3, and white goes knight to d5, leaving the queen en prise. How did this continue? Leads to a bunch of exchanges. And it looked like black was holding. This continues, but I think black's holding in the end. So instead of h5, they can also go f4. This was a line, takes, e5, rook ad8. And once again, it's all dangerous for black, but it did look like he comes out alive. Therefore, yeah, it's a very serious line. Not as popular as long castles or bishop c4, but certainly a line that you have to be prepared for as well. And it starts with bishop to e6. So yeah, hope that helped. What do we have? We have oscarshales. He's saying, hi Jan, against 1 e4 I play the timer off, according to Robin Van Kampen's video series on chess24. But I have a problem against one line Robin didn't cover. e4 c5, knight f3, e6, d4 cd, knight d4, knight c6, knight takes c6. What setup should I choose as black? Is there any move order trickery? Thank you and keep up the good work. Maybe add some occasional blind radio Jan banter blitz. I don't think he can play blindfold. That doesn't sound like much of a problem. I'm not quite sure what your problem is their oscarshales, because just for comparison, like you're saying knight c6, knight takes c6, a popular line here is or used to be knight to c3, pawn to a6, and now knight takes c6, b takes c, which is the same position, but I keep forgetting that board, sorry. So let's do this again. Knight f3, e6, d4, cd, knight d4, knight c6, knight takes c6. This is oscarshales' question, and I was saying that if they go knight c3, popular line used to be a6 here. I guess the repertoire Robin recommends queen c7, which I also prefer, but this is a line. And here it's the same position, but knight to c3 and a6 included. And a6 is clearly not very useful. So the direct knight takes c6, I've seen it played, but it does not strike me as very dangerous. You go b takes c, no reason to suffer after d takes c. Capture towards the center, put the pawn on d5, the knight on f6, and then have a look around. Which setup will depend, as always in chess, or as often in chess, on what white does. So I struggle answering that, but I guess bishop d3 is a normal move. You go d5, castles, knight to f6, and white faces a bit of a choice. If they go knight d2, which looks logical to me, keeping the tension and maybe potentially going for c4, then I would try to discourage e5 in the distant future. Go bishop d6, let's say. Queen e2, queen to c7, and make it a little harder for white to get an e5. It looks to me like black is very fine. If they start with queen e2, you know, to keep options open and to stop bishop d6 because of e5, then I guess we can take here. Play such a position, which with the two bishops should also be quite acceptable. And if they go e5, knight d7, this also looks like a very good version of similar positions. So I don't see anything to be too worried about. There's also this move c4, which they sometimes play. When after knight f6, knight c3, we'd be back to some theoretical line. But here you don't even need to go knight f6, as far as I can see. Bishop c5 is interesting. Keeping, you know, options like queen f6, knight e7 in reserve. Like knight c3, queen f6. Obviously, if they allow queen takes f2 checkmate, we'll do it. But if they parry it, the position looked quite acceptable to me as well. Queen c2, knight e7. I don't think this is very relevant theoretically, but just showing the black has options. So long story short, I don't think knight takes c6 is a move you should particularly worry about. Go bc, d5, knight f6. Have a look around. Take it from there. Is there more? Devoted subject of Janistan. Excellent username, first of all. Congratulations. He's saying, hi Jan, what is your assessment of the current theoretical status of the Marshall Gambit? d4, d5, c4, e6, knight c3, c6, and so on and so forth. Bishop b4, queen e4 check. It's not on the screen. Ugh. Let's fit it on the screen. Here we are. I know this is supposed to be the critical test of the triangle, but I really can't find anything too tempting for white. And I would like some idea of why black players aren't going here or are even playing dubious bluff lines, e.g. Karana, Kramnik, Berlin 2018, to avoid it. The main line is supposed to be bishop e2, knight a6, bishop a5, but black seems to be completely fine after b6, and so on. We'll put all this on the board in a minute. With the more popular 12 knight h6 also hasn't really led anywhere for white in correspondence games. Instead, bishop d6 is a popular alternative, then after queen g2, queen d2, and so on. Black can initiate enormous complications with knight f6, where white really needs to be prepared, and black has to be also been doing fine in correspondence. It's also not so easy to prove an advantage after e5. Finally, there's also knight e2, endgame, yep, or knight c2 check. Thanks for another edition of this truly wonderful series. Sorry. Here we are. Thank you, thank you. All right, Marshall Gambit. Yeah, I agree with most things being said there by devoted subject of Janistan. I don't think things are that easy in some of the lines mentioned, like d4, d5, c4, e6, knight c3, c6, c4, takes, bishop b4, bishop d2, queen takes d4. This is the Marshall Gambit, and I agree, it's sort of the critical test to, you know, punish this triangle move order. Queen e4, so let's start with bishop e2, which has always been more popular than knight e2. Bishop e2, knight a6 is the main move, as mentioned, and you gave this line, bishop a5, b6, queen d6, this is the main line, bishop d7, also the main move. There was some experimenting with this sacrifice, but it doesn't quite work, right? ba, rook d1, f6, f3, queen e3, this stuff. At least computers are showing white edge here. So yeah, I agree, bishop d7 is the move. How does this go? Bishop c3, f6, knight f3, and you gave knight c5 or knight h6. There's knight c5, I think there, yeah. Black is holding, but is he having that much fun here? Like bishop b4, this is what you were mentioning, no? Knight e7, takes, queen c5, knight g6. There's this trick along castles when queen e2 doesn't work, because rook he1 traps the queen. And, well, I know stuff continues, but yeah, if you check this with your engine of choice, queen d6, queen a3, I think you won't find it to be that simple equality. I'm sure they make their draws in correspondence, but this, you know, maybe a little shaky. I have to admit, I do not know very much about this other move, knight h6. I've seen there are some games here as well. Knight h6, knight d2, queen g6, queen a3, knight c5. Maybe this is the way. Here I'm not very deep, to be honest. So could be, but my feeling was this is maybe the most critical battleground. Is knight a6, bishop a5. I agree with what he said about bishop d6. There are all these long lines after queen g2, which I think are fine, and e5 is also not too bad, even though white might be slightly better in these e5 lines. So probably you have to enter this jungle here, but I think it's fine for black. Then what else was there? Oh yeah, knight e2. Yeah, I sort of agree. Knight e2 is always this line where you get this endgame. That should not be very much. Some white players like this as a sort of memory test, but most triangle players, they will know this sequence, so I do not think this is all that promising. Like, looks equal, no? Or, I don't know, I think computers give like 0.20 or something, but it's hard to take this too seriously. And you mentioned some other line. I thought this didn't work. Knight c2, king d2. But it's not okay. Your point is that it's very complex and white is no stuff here. There's bishop h8, e5. I thought white is suffering after black is suffering after queen e5 or f3. So probably no reason to go, but yeah, knight e2. I think this knight d3 check, you know, is nothing to be overly concerned about. So generally I agree with the conclusions you gave, and I agree the triangle keeps being a very playable line. The one line where I'm not so sure is, like, I've seen they make draws in correspondence, but yeah, is how easy these things are. So I hope that helped. And as mentioned, knight h6, I must admit, not that deep. Could be. That helps. Thank you for the question. Did I forget some part of it? Devoted subject of SubjectofJanistan, let me look. Bishop d6, yeah, we covered 92. Yeah, that endgame doesn't look like too much for white. Yeah, I agree. Really can't find anything too tempting for white. Yeah, I guess that's fair. It's just, yeah, it's a lot of ground to cover for not that much upside compared to playing, you know, the Slav or the Nimzo and transposing to the semi-Slav. So I guess that is a big reason why it's not a more popular thing, because you're not gaining that much with this move order. But yeah, I agree, it's not a hopeless opening. Shout out to Sopiko Guramishvili, who did, I think, a video series on this on good old chess24. CAPAJunior is saying, a friend and I are both rated around 2250. That's a brag. Not the rating, but having a friend. He used to play Benoni and Nimzo with black, and I was beating him regularly in blitz. Wow. In the Benoni or the Nimzo? Nimzo is excellent. He has now started playing the Ragozin, and I haven't won a single game. So was the Benoni was the culprit. And have lost a few with white. Barring an upcoming video series, could you give me a suggestion or two on approaching the Ragozin? I've tried 5 bishop g5, 5 bishop f4, and 5 queen a4 check thus far without great results. Thinking of trying 5 cd5 next. But I'm guessing that just transposes to 6 bishop g5 or 6 queen a4 check lines. What would you do in a pinch? Love the show and love the site. CJ. Thank you, CAPAJunior. Bit confused as usual, but let's wing it. So d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight f3, d5. Obviously, if your friend plays Ragozin and Nimzo and you're struggling against the Ragozin, you can always go for the Nimzo instead. Because here, after d5, you have this bonus option to take, which most black players don't want. The other way to avoid the Ragozin is, of course, the good old Catalan. I'm sure you're aware of all of that. Just saying, if the Ragozin is too much of a terror, you have these options. Other than that, yeah, what did you list? You listed bishop, queen a4, bishop g5, and bishop f4. Bishop f4 here looks strange. No, they just take the pawn, I guess. So that I'm not sure about. Queen a4 check is playable. This will always be a playable move. Knight c6, e3 castles, and now queen c2 or bishop d2, leading to a game of chess. It's, yeah, I guess, question of taste if it's for you or not. Yeah, bishop g5 I think is a good move. The problem is you have to cover quite some ground because they might transpose back to the Vienna now that some lines of the Vienna have been no longer possible for white, like these bishop takes c4 gambits. And you need a plan after h6, which always has been very, very solid. Of course, yeah, there are playable lines in all of this, but black has been doing pretty well here. So I've never been too attracted to this bishop g5 move just because it gives black a choice. And yeah, I would probably, I don't know, I might chicken out and play some e3 castles and, you know, bishop d2 or bishop d3, transpose back to some Nimzo. But I would probably, on a well-prepared day, go for the CD, ED and now decide between bishop f4 and bishop g5 here. It doesn't really transpose because after CD, ED, bishop g5, if they go h6 here, now you can play bishop h4, which in the other line, where you go bishop g5 directly, it's very different because black has d takes c4 options, which obviously he no longer has with CD, ED included. So I would probably go here. Of course, that will not exactly make a Ragozin player tremble with fear. And e3 bishop f5 has been doing pretty well for black, has to be admitted. So still, I think this is, for d4 players, the most natural habitat to start looking like queen b3 or bishop e2 or knight e5. There are all kinds of topical lines here that you could investigate. The alternative, if you want something more off the beaten track is this bishop f4, which recently was played in a game. What was it? Karana Anand in Vike, I believe. This can lead to extremely sharp stuff if they go for this line. Knight e4, rook c1, knight c6, which was recommended, I think, in Cornet's book. Knight d2. How does this go? Knight c3, bc, bishop a3. Sorry if I'm... I have a feeling I'm bungling the move order. Do they start with g5? Maybe they start with g5. Yeah, I think this is the one. You can get positions like this, which are a total mess, but it's also one of those. The better prepared side wins. Therefore, yeah, I don't know. The Ragozin is an excellent opening, and frankly, if I was facing a Ragozin expert, I would consider going 3 knight c3 or do my usual nonsense, you know, my usual move order trickery, depending on the rest of his repertoire. Maybe start with 1 c4, trying to get him out of his ragonizing, stuff like that. But yeah, if I had to face the Ragozin tomorrow and I had an hour or two to prepare, my best guess is I would play CD, ED, and either bishop f4 or bishop to g5. Sorry, that's not exactly a repertoire. I understand that. And it's because I don't have one. As mentioned, bishop g5, I used to have a repertoire. And all these old lines, at least you can try for an advantage here. This g5, bishop g3, knight e4, knight d2 being one. Or there's also c5 here, and now dc5 is interesting. And so on and so forth. So there's many lines, but this topic one, bishop h4, castles, e3, bishop f5, has been a bit of a headache for a while. But yeah, I would still probably go here and, you know, try to find some sort of memory test if I can't come up with anything better. So I hope that helps you to confront your friend in your next Ragozin battle. But it has to be said, it is an excellent opening. That's why, you know, a lot of top players are playing it. And it's here to stay. Sorry, CAPAJunior, don't have any refutations of the Ragozin. Very strong opening. That's it for this season. I'm sure we will do another one in the distant or not so distant future. Thanks everybody for sending your questions. I hope we all learned something. If you want to participate in the next season, why not become a premium member? With the voucher code for stay at home, you get 40% off the premium membership on chess24.com currently. Well, so that's to plug. My Chessable series, still excellent. Solves big chunk of your opening problems by, you know, just giving you repertoire against 1 e4. So check that out, chessable.com/Jan. Not see you on Chess24. Of course, there will be the usual Beta Blitzes, some exciting tournaments coming up, and so on and so forth. So, thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye. 80 minutes. Wasn't quite 90. Still long. Bye.